Thank you for meeting with us today, Representative. Earlier, when referring to the kidnappings of political dissidents, you said people deserve due process. And the room, I'm proud to say, my fellow constituents of CD10 erupted in applause, because that's what this country is all about, is due process. Unfortunately, in the first month that you were representing the people of CD10, you voted for the Laken Riley Act, which, among other things, requires the detention of undocumented migrants if they are even charged with a crime, exempting a particularly marginalized group from the due process that we hold sacred in this country. In the interim, since that act was passed, our sheriff's office in Loudoun County signed a 287G agreement pledging to cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They signed this agreement after the fact that after these slew of political kidnappings and disappearances of American political dissidents. My question is briefly threefold. First, what do you say to a constituent who sees your vote in support for the Laken Riley Act and Democrat concessions on these issues in general as having contributed to this process, contributed to this tendency where we're now seeing people detained for their political beliefs? Urgently, I'll ask you what are you doing to help the threatened groups among your constituency, undocumented migrants and Palestinian Americans in particular? And considering that and the final question is, considering that your top campaign contributor in 2023 to 2024 was the American Israel Public Affairs Committee at $37,250, can you pledge to not take any more money from them if and when you run for re-election?
Yeah, the third one is simply not true. So I don't know where you're getting that number from. But
OpenSecrets.org?
OpenSecrets.org, well, that's not true. So anyway, the second one and the first one. So I want to tell you the difference between the Laken Riley Act and what's happening, because at least the Laken Riley Act does give an immigration judge the ability to hear and let the person know what's going on. They're at least charged with the crime, and they at least know what the crime is, and they at least have the opportunity to have a deportation proceeding. What's actually happening right now is there are people who are being picked up without even being told why they're being picked up, and they're being sent to El Salvador out of our jurisdiction, and then the administration is telling people we can't get them back, right? That is completely different. No, this isn't a debate. Let me finish at least, and I'll let you ask another question. But the concern that I have right now is that even if you, two things. One, even if you disagree with someone's stance on an issue, to call them a threat to our foreign affairs and a threat to our country because you disagree with what they're saying, that's not right to detain someone based on that issue. The people being detained had green cards. They were here legally. A lot of people had TPS status, for instance. And so they're very different situations. We can still be for rule of law. We can still be for making sure that there's consequences for crimes, but not do what's happening now, where there's absolutely no communication. We had a third grader, right, in New York that was picked up and detained and put in a prison, right? Had no idea what was going on. He did nothing wrong, right? So that is not that, right? And so I disagree. I disagree with a lot of your premises, actually, and we'll agree to disagree on that. But I just don't think that what's going on today in our country is anywhere near the goal of trying to at least make sure our communities are safe.
Okay, then I'm aware that these arrests are not within the purview of Laken Riley, but what I'm referring to is when you spoke to LCDC in Loudoun County a couple months ago, you provided the reasoning for your support for the Laken Riley Act as wanting to demonstrate a realism for the other side of the aisle on these issues that you... Well, then you can rephrase it however you'd like, but can you at least answer how much money you have taken from AIPAC?
I have zero money taken from AIPAC has not sent me any money. if you look back at our campaign finance reports, they have a portal where people can donate, right? So that might be what you're seeing. But even then, I've gotten far more money from people who oppose Israel. But it's not even about that. My vote is not bought in any sort of way. I vote based on my community, based on the facts, based on what's best for a country. And so, I disagree with your premises, and I don't know where you got that number from. I disagree with that as well. So, but I appreciate you coming here today.
Okay.